Hey, my name is Curtis, and I make games. Kinda. In this devlog, I'm going to run through the most recent updates I've made to Rawshire The Last Hatchling. If you're interested in more details, a full list of the patch notes can be found on Steam, link is in the description. And while you're on Steam, don't forget to give Rawshire a quick wish list, it helps me out a lot. Alright, so this update covers 3 main areas of the game. These areas include the collection mechanics, UI and UX updates, and game flow and feel. But before we dive into the new updates, the first thing I did during this update was write down everything I needed to complete Rawshire. Essentially, I created a roadmap. The big thing this highlights is how much work I have left to do. So with that motivation, here's the first update or change I've made to the game. When looking at updating the collection mechanics, I wanted Rawshire to stay true to its predecessors and be a true collectathon. But in that vein, I also wanted to use the collection mechanics as a way to add story elements and lore to the game to encourage exploration. So what took most of my time in this update was adding a catalog system. I'm calling this system a codex. What this system allows the player to do is collect and catalog anything throughout Rawshire. The codex is divided into 5 different categories. First is Rawshire, which is a list of things and places that can be found and discovered throughout Rawshire. For example, detailed information about each zone or level, a collectible item itself, and even more information about secrets that might be found throughout Rawshire. Next is creatures. These entries into the codex can be unlocked once you've either encountered the creature or defeated the creature within Rawshire. Creature information can be found here, including the creature's stature, the height and weight, as well as information about what they might want or what might be their weaknesses moving forward to better help you defeat them. Discoveries is a list of points of interest that detail lore elements around Rawshire. These points of interest add explanation to the level design as well as fill in gaps of the story. The history section is a list of the main story elements. This gives the player the ability to revisit the story when they see fit. In similar fashion, the tutorial section of the codex highlights the controls and allows the player to go look for reference later on at the tutorials they've completed so far. Overall, once the player unlocks or adds any information to any of the databases within the codex, it gives the player experience, which they can then use to update their skills and help them advance through Rawshire. Overall, I'm happy with how this system has been implemented so far. It still definitely needs some more work, because right now a lot of the images are placeholders. So many screenshots and a lot of artwork are still needed to finish this off, but the base mechanics are there and it's implemented into the game. It also posed some unique challenges in UI design, especially getting everything to work with a controller. This leads us to our next big update, the UI and UX design. So I know I have been working on this UI for a long time, but every update gets a little bit better and feels more and more like what I envisioned it to be. I'll give you a quick walkthrough, starting with the main menu. The main menu was entirely changed, and I added a lot more color to the title screen, as well as some new animations for the introduction. There definitely still needs to be a bit of work, but I think I like this better. Next, we'll look at the loading screen. This was completely overhauled as well. I wanted to better highlight the tips and tricks part that are suggested while levels are loading. And to do this, I added a banner along the bottom and removed the spinning decal that I had there before. The image used is a placeholder, and again will be replaced with a database of screenshots and concept art that'll randomize to keep things fresh in the same fashion that the tips do. Next is the pause menu, which I've spent a lot of time on already, but I fully converted it to what I had started to last time, which is the tab-based pause menu. I ensured all the tabs function with the controller, and I added some decals to give some of the static parts of the pause menu a bit more life. What's left to do here is fully implement the options menu by adding more options. I also need to finish the sanctuary menu, which doesn't quite meet the rest of the menu standards. Also, the world menu needs a few updates, especially the actual map for the world. That 3D map was a placeholder that I had sculpted very quickly, so that's going to be replaced very soon. And finally, when it comes to UI and UX, the level complete screen got an overhaul to match the same style and format as the other menus. I also added some animations that definitely need to be sped up and fully realized, but I think it looks a lot better now. And looking into the final main update for Rawshire is game feel and flow. Now, I definitely have been working on this for a while as well. A lot of back-end fixes to make the game building more modular, but also scene transitions. I had implemented a system before that had some bugs that I tweaked on this update, and I made some visual improvements to some of those transitions, including title screen updates and some new cutscenes for the introduction to levels. These titles are meant to fit the flow of the rest of the game and the style. That was a big focus of this, to make sure everything felt cohesive and that it fit together. I also started adding some sound effects to give the world a bit more life and make your decisions have a bit more of an impact. This is in the early stages, but sound is definitely something that I'm excited to get started with. Also, some levels were edited to make sure that the player movement fit the level design properly, and some more environment assets were added to make the levels feel a bit more alive. Other fixes include the save system. I revamped some of the stuff to add the new cataloging system and make sure there was no bugs. I also updated the portal transfer system in Sanctuary to remove some bugs and to make it feel a bit better. There's still some work to do there, but it's definitely feeling a bit better. Overall, this update was a lot of little things that really started to bring Rawshire into what I had envisioned it from the beginning. There's still a lot to do, but I'm definitely excited for the next steps. Which, speaking of next steps, what's next? Currently, my life is very busy, so I haven't had as much time to work on Rawshire. However, the next update is a very important one, and one that I'm quite excited to get started on. The main theme of the next update is combat, focusing on 3 different areas. These include general combat, boss fights, and enemy AI. Since combat is a core mechanic in Rawshire, it's very important to get this stuff right before expanding and adding new enemies, new levels, etc. I'm hoping that after this update, I'll be able to start finishing off the last half of the game, adding the levels, and start to get into story. Here's another look at the roadmap if you're interested to see what's coming. I want to thank everyone for listening, and don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and keep making games. Cheers.